What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Today, we're examining what marriage looks like in the Bible. In this second video, Dr. Jennifer Bird and I discuss how Genesis chapter 2 verse 24 doesn't actually affirm traditional marriage. Those apologists that claim this verse does affirm traditional heterosexual marriage are exposing how they're importing modern interpretations of marriage into the text instead of understanding what they actually meant. If you want to find out how Genesis chapter 2 verse 24 doesn't actually affirm traditional heterosexual marriage, then please stay tuned. So let's move on to 224.
Yeah.
Bring that up right here.
Yeah. And I appreciate you using the NRSV updated edition and not NIV, for instance. If you really were a closeted Christian, you'd be using NIV.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't like using the NIV. That's probably my least favorite, other than the KJV. And I've just I try to keep up with like what is the best version to use. And so recently, I've heard multiple different like scholarly people say that the NRSV UE is the one that you would want to use if you're looking critically at the Bible and everything. So that's what I try to use.
Yeah, I'm impressed. It's it's a matter of debate, to be honest, but that's feels relatively safe for me. But so yes, but this is one of the really classic, but this is most English translations don't do justice to this verse, and that's the main point here. So when I first discovered that the language in the Hebrew here says we should read this, therefore a man leaves his father and his mother and clings to his woman, and they become one flesh. And the first time I sat with that, and just really sat with that, right? Wait a minute. The Hebrew doesn't have a noun to differentiate between woman and wife, and the Hebrew doesn't have a noun to differentiate between man and husband. We do, because that difference is important to us, but the Hebrew didn't. And here, the translators have all made a decision. They've all made a decision to make this be about marriage specifically by importing married language. So when they say, therefore a man leaves his father and mother, clings to his wife, then it's okay for them in the next part of the verse to then cling together, which is implying they're going to have sex, right? Mm-hmm. I wish I'd recorded a couple times when I made this announcement, or like when I kind of talked this through with students in person, and just to watch all the faces. They're like, what? They don't get married? That's not marriage? In this verse and the verse in 1 Corinthians 7 about if you're too passionate, go get married, that'll help you put out the passion, actually. These two verses are used to say that sex before marriage is a sin. Mm-hmm. But in the Hebrew Bible, there isn't a verb to marry. There isn't a way to differentiate between pre and post pairing up. So and other biblical passages make it very clear that men can have sex prior to and outside of marriage, and it's not an issue at all. So anyway, this verse, again, in context, look at what the story is saying. What is this chapter saying and getting at? Well, this chapter is really, you see the opening where, God, there's the gardens and the rivers and all this stuff. And then God forms a human, not a man, but a human out of the dirt. And we think it's a man because of the pronouns used, and because the name Adam, whatever. So gets turned into Adam. But the first human was actually generic, no gender, just a human. And the language and the conversation is around this thing about it's not good for the human to be alone, That's the premise that's laid out there up front. Like, you've got this human, but the human is alone, and that's not good. So let's find the human a partner. And the language there I like to talk about, but I don't want to spend too much time on these details here. But the partner as its equal is what they're looking at, not a subservient. But anyway, so you get to verse 23, and it says, therefore, where he's, pulled the side, pulled some of the side out to make another human, and breathes life into them both, and all that stuff. And so they're, oh, out of this one shall be called woman, for out of man she was taken. Well, once you have male and female, then you have once you have two, that's when you have male and female. Prior to there being two, when it was just one, it was a generic human, ha-adam. Now it's ish and isha, a man and woman, now that we have two. And this is where people get hung up, I think, on the wrong thing. This is a story, I think, that is trying to talk about a nearly, but not entirely, a nearly universal desire that humans have to find a partner, to partner up, to have a life companion, to do, to share your life with, right? It's not specifically talking about the institution that we call marriage. It's talking about human desire, human need, the need for relationship, which to me it might sound subtle, but it's a pretty significant shift in terms of where you're putting the emphasis. Mm-hmm. So this verse, in every English translation I've looked at, implies marriage, but the Hebrew isn't. If you look at the story in the Hebrew, it's not talking about a human institution. It's talking about a human desire on the level of relationship.
Mm-hmm. Just a little anecdotal story from me. I actually, after I read this part in your book where you talk about this language distinction here, I mentioned that to a Christian in a live that I was doing, and I was like, there's no actual verb in the Hebrew language that means like to marry or distinguishes a married individual. Yeah. And he was like, no, there is. He copies the Hebrew word that you specify. It means to take or taken. And he's like, that means marry. I'm like, no, that means to take.
That's what this person did this live with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy crap. Yeah. I mean, and so I share charts actually in that chapter, as well as I think in chapter 5, where I'm talking about more terminology. Just to highlight that, sorry, I just unplugged my headphones. To highlight that, yeah, a lot of translation committees have chosen to translate lakach as marry, but they also all agree in these other situations, it's just to take, right? And so, why is taking a woman being called marrying her, right? This is it's a redirect, it's a misdirect, or it's a, don't pay attention what's going on behind the curtains. This is a man takes a woman, so back to, your point and your questions. I kind of get off on tangents sometimes.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Okay. The translation committees have they're misleading us, right? When they translate, go and take a woman as go and marry a woman. They're misleading us because we have mostly nice, lovely connotations associated with marrying. Maybe not everybody does, but in their context, he's literally just going out and taking her. There's no mutuality. There's no vows being exchanged. We're not committing to each other for life. I get students talking about it through their lenses, right? My lens is that I'm going to commit to someone hopefully for the rest of my life and love them and love and be, whatever. Like, great. That's not what they're talking about here. And so translation committees are misleading us over, and that builds up, so that to the point where I think we should remove from both testaments, the Hebrew Bible and the Newer Testament, which is my way of referring to the Old Testament and New Testament, we should remove marrying verbs from the Hebrew Bible, and we should remove any reference to husband and wife in both testaments, because neither, even in the Greek and the Newer Testament, there isn't a way to differentiate between man and husband or woman and wife. It's in the passages in the Newer Testament where it talks about husbands, do this with your wives, and wives, be submissive to your husband. No, it's just woman, be submissive to your man. or to
Hmm.
the man or whatever, right? Men do this with the women. Like it's not I mean, the originals are much more raw. And so people are trying to make it more palatable instead of showing us what they were thinking and doing and talking about at the time. And so go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just gonna ask, would you call that being, anachronistic? Like, in inserting, like, our modern understanding, onto this, older text, sort of overriding what the original Hebrews or, later on, the Jews would've, like, thought about relationships?
Such a great question. Such a great question. I appreciate this because I'm not sure if it's anachronism or if it's discomfort, right? And so it's a willful misleading because of the discomfort. Instead of I mean, I do think I think calling it anachronistic is kinder, but
Okay.
I don't think that that actually is what's going on. And here's the thing, like, I know a lot of the people on the NRSV, UE committee, for instance. Like, I know the people who did this, and I made comments, like, about this particular thing, actually. And, they're gonna do what they're gonna do, but are they trying to be malicious in misleading people? Or are they it's really unpalatable to them because most of the people on those committees are people of faith, whether a Jewish tradition or Christian. And so it's uncomfortable for them to represent it in a raw kind of a way, right? It's
Mhm,
uncomfortable. Well, what we mean by these relationships is this. So we're going to call it what we mean because it's a sacred collection and it's really powerful. And so if we're going to present it as what it actually says, that's not going to go over well in the pews and in the synagogues, right? The people in the pews and the people like it's really about that, in my opinion. And it's about things like power. And I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's about it's that, and it's not the level of intellectual integrity. It's the level of how this plays out for people of faith and
mhm.
what we want them to think about these ideas and passages. And I mean, it's really about the issue of faith and how that plays out for people.
Yeah,
And I like
and
the
so
people on the committee, like, please, so that's why I raised the point, like, they're lovely people, right? They're very intelligent people. They're some of the best in the field or whatever, but that doesn't mean that they're not seeing this clearly.
mhm.
Okay.
Well, would you say that this is more of an instance of this ownership of women that we see in the Bible, like taking ownership of a woman rather than entering into some kind of like mutual relationship?
Yeah. I mean, that is what their moves are doing is keeping us from seeing, yes, that's what's going on in the Hebrew Bible in particular. It still plays out some in the Newer Testament. Excuse me. But yes, in the Hebrew Bible, I think you're absolutely spot on there. It- the relationship that we call marriage is very much about women are property, right? Women are property, men own them, men get to control their bodies. Um, and 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 so anything that people that's uncomfortable for a lot of people. Like that, most people don't want to acknowledge that, don't want to face that that's what's happening. And so, yeah, so that's part of the motivation for sure to redirect on that. Mhm.
Hmm.
The relationship we call marriage in the Bible, in the Hebrew Bible, the way it shows up is taking. Actually, in the chapter you are about to get to, so the one called it's a matter of terminology. There are
Hmm.
actually the primary verb that's used in the Hebrew, lakach, to take, which is translated across the board when it has to do with a man and a woman, it is translated as marriage. Um, it's not the only one, but it's the predominant one. But there are other verbs that are even worse.
Like worse, as far as like translate, like whenever they translate it to a more modern concept, like there's even worse violations of that.
No, no, not quite that way, but in the sense that to me, the verbs themselves are actually they're being translated as marry, but the verbs in the original are even more aggressive about a man dominating over a woman.
Oh, okay. I'm
I
definitely
have to laugh.
interested in those.
Right. I mean, I kinda have to laugh at this even though it's not funny at all. Sorry,
I'm the exact same way, Dr.
right?
Bird. So
Thank you. Good. So you appreciate my ridiculous humor or whatever. So what and
yeah.
just, I won't get into all of it, but one of the verbs is related to the noun for Baal, which many people are familiar with as a god, but used as a noun, it's just Lord, right? So
Mhm.
it's like asserting that he is going to be master over her. But that verb form is translated as marry. And then there's the verb nasa, which is to take by force. And I mean, I was looking at the scholarship on this, and these male biblical scholars were just doing all kinds of dancing around, like, well, this isn't bad or negative or what. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's the literal definition that people have decided, agreed on, is that you take by force, like, meaning there's no bride price, there's no gift given, but literally just taken. So, no financial exchange. Her father isn't given any money for it, right?
Mhm.
And then there's another one that's even stronger in terms of
I
lording,
fe
like mastering over her. It's kind of gross. So the lakach is the most common verb form, but
Okay.
there are three or four others that are all more clear about men dominating women, and they're all being translated as to marry.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the for taking by force as a form of marriage, it sounds like a shotgun wedding, to be quite honest.
A
Sort of,
shotgun wedding? Yep, we
yeah.
could yeah. I mean, or you could look at all of the marriages that are, like, political alliances between countries, right? Taking by
Mhm,
force. I mean, this woman has no say at all, but she's a pawn between these men, right?
mhm.
Yep, all kinds of but, like, one quick example of it is, Mahlon and Chilion, the sons of Naomi and Elimelech in the story of Ruth, right?
Mhm.
So they all moved to Moab, these, Hebrew people moved to Moab, and then the 2 sons take women, and it's Nasa, but it's they marry women. It might say that they take some women as their wives or something like that, but it's Nasaing, it's like take by force. It's like, oh
Mhm.
god. We just read right over it, we don't realize what's being said there.
Yeah. And so I'm guessing this passage, the Genesis 2:24, I
Yeah.
guess this is primarily used like in apologetics now to say that, only a man and a woman are to be married, and that this is some kind of like I guess holy institution of God or something like
Yes,
that. Is that
God
right?
ordains marriage between a man and a woman, and no sex before marriage. It's used to say both, for
Hmm.
sure. But yes, definitely what you said. Definitely that God ordains marriage between a man and a woman.
Right. And I don't know if this comes up in the next verse, which is, I believe, Matthew 19, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Uh, but I know that you kind of made this distinction in the book about how um, what they're identifying as marriage is really just having sex, and so like that means that there can literally never be premarital sex because any sex with a unclaimed woman is considered a marriage, right? So like there's no premarital sex in that sense, right?
Yes and no. It's such again, you're like you're hitting all the great points. Um, it's I
I've
in the
read the
bib
book.
well, you have read the book, it's true. But the caveat on that is, like, both yes, you're absolutely right, but then there's this other issue that unless the man doesn't actually want it to be a marriage. So, in other words, a man biblically speaking, the way the narratives play out and what's being endorsed in the laws and all of the different things, a man claiming a woman as his own, the way he does it is to have sex with her. And that everybody knows she's his, right? He claims her as his own by having sex, and there you have it. There's no like we don't know of any ceremony, blah blah blah. But there are cases when men have sex with women that they don't want to claim as their own, right? For whatever reason, and they don't have to. Right? Or so we look at the story of Jacob with his two sister brides, right? And Rachel and
Mhm.
Leah, and the women who are given as a part of their wedding, or a part of their being paired up with him, he worked for them and then they're given to him. But they also have enslaved women who are, part of the package. Leah has her own. She's a servant, but the usually translated as handmaid or I don't know what. But Leah and Rachel both have a woman that come with them. So Jacob is having sex with 4 women, right? They all are under his roof, but he only has to claim 2 of them as like he's claimed 2 of them, taken 2 of them, had, only 2 of them count in what we would call a wife status, but the other 2 he's having sex with, and it's not a problem because it was a
Mhm.
cultural practice. And it was important for creating the tribes of Israel. Like, I mean, in the narrative, it's essential. Nobody cares, but he's having sex with those other 2, Bilhah and Zilpah, and that's just that. Like, they're just there for sex.
Yeah, how I'm just wondering how if you have the same reaction that I do to that particular story because like when I was a Christian, I never really read too critically in the Bible, right? But
Right.
once I started really studying like both the Hebrew Bible and the Newer Testament, this story really kind of it made me laugh, but it like not because I think the situation's funny, but it's just like how ridiculous is this situation because it's like Jacob, he works for 7 years to purchase a woman, and I always, whenever I bring up this story, I always make sure to like turn my head away. And when I'm talking to somebody, I yell purchase because it's like, I want to drive that point home that he is purchasing a woman. And so he purchases a woman, but
Yeah.
like, I don't know what happened, but, like, he marries the wrong woman. He's given the wrong woman, and he's like, "Oh, no. I slept with the wrong woman. Why did you do this?
How
I
did this
can't tell them
happen?
apart." Like, that struck me as the weirdest story,
Right.
And so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kinda one of those situations where you laugh because it's really uncomfortable and not really good, but it's like, what are you trying to do, story?
What
Like, this
the
is the worst
hell?
kind of story writing in my opinion
Totally.
about it.
How is that even Yeah. I do try to laugh about this. Don't tell me he didn't know it was Leah. "Ooh, oh, who have I been with all night?" Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, and then the narrative also continues and says, okay, he's angry, and the response, right? The response is, "Okay, okay. Well, just give her 1 week with you, and at the end of the week, we'll give you the other one also, if you work for us for another 7 years." So, like, he goes from nothing to all 4 women within a week. Like, it's just so many pieces of it are just wild,
Mhm.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, all right. So, was there anything left to say about Genesis 2:24 before we move on to the Matthew 19 verse? Because the Matthew 19 verse, if I'm not mistaken, is the one that I kind of had a little bit of fun with
Oh,
on
did you?
Facebook. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I
nice.
like to make meme like whenever I learn something new, and I've
Yeah.
been learning a lot from your book. Whenever I learn something, I like to make a meme so that I can try to like, do some edutainment basically
Yes. No,
on
I
it.
love it. I think it's
Yeah.
great.
And so that we're definitely gonna get to that one, but, is there anything left that you, wanna say about 224 here?
I there are things I could say, but I don't think so. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's the gist, the main thing that I'm interested in people taking, like, if there's a nugget, is that this isn't talking about marriage. We're being importing marriage language onto it where it doesn't belong, and I think because of that, we're missing that what it's really getting at is this thing about humans and relationships, right? It's not good for the human to be alone. Let's get that human paired up, And when you're reading it from that perspective, then you can just you can just say, yeah, well, who are the people? Who is it I'm interested in being with? Instead of this is what God ordained for all time, specifically. So,
Right.
yeah.
Thank you, heathens, for watching my conversation with Dr. Jennifer Bird. If you would like to continue this discussion, either stay tuned or click this video. Otherwise, before you go, make sure you go down below and leave a comment with your thoughts on this section of the discussion. While you're down there, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. And as always, don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.